Whenever humanity unlocks a massive new power source, right,
Yeah.
like the combustion engine or electricity, we don't just plug things in and hope for the best.
No, definitely not.
Right. We usually have to rewrite our entire social contract just to survive the transition. I mean, think of the New Deal.
Yeah, that's a great comparison.
So today, we're taking a deep dive into an April 2026 document from OpenAI called Industrial Policy for the Intelligence Age. And our mission is to explore their roadmap for society's shift to superintelligence.
Mostly keeping people at the center, which, is a tall order.
It really is. Okay, let's unpack this, because if superintelligence is the new electricity, how do we ensure you actually benefit from the power grid building, the grounded wires, and municipal utilities instead of just getting shocked?
Well, that tension is what's driving this entire document. It goes far beyond just a technological roadmap and proposes a total reboot of our economic safety nets.
Because the productivity gains would just be astronomical, right?
Exactly. What takes a human team months could take a machine hours. So what's fascinating here is how the document shifts focus from just pushing raw technical capability toward radically restructuring basic living standards.
Wow.
For example, they propose a right to AI, like treating baseline access to these models like a foundational utility, similar to mass literacy or broadband.
Okay, but how do we pay for all that economic disruption?
Well, they suggest modernizing the tax base, even floating the idea of taxing automated labor.
Wait, hold on. If we tax automated labor to fund portable benefits for displaced workers, and by that we mean healthcare and retirement tied directly to the individual rather than a specific employer, wouldn't that completely alter the business models of the very tech companies proposing this?
You would think so, yeah.
They are essentially suggesting taxing their own products' output. Why would they volunteer for that?
It really comes down to basic economic self-preservation. I mean,
Yeah.
if AI wipes out consumer purchasing power, there's no one left to buy the services these tech companies provide.
Oh, right. That makes sense.
Yeah, but the mechanics of taxing an AI are still heavily debated. Like, do you tax the raw electricity it uses, the compute power of the GPUs, or do you calculate a human equivalent hourly rate for the AI's output?
That sounds incredibly complex.
It is. But whatever the method, that revenue would feed into another major proposal, which is a public wealth fund. The mechanism here is that a portion of corporate equity or a broad compute tax would give every citizen a direct financial stake in AI-driven economic growth.
Without even needing the capital to buy traditional stocks.
Exactly.
And then there's the concept of efficiency dividends. The idea is that as AI takes over the grunt work and effectively doubles a company's output, the company essentially buys back your Friday.
Right, leading to a shorter week.
Yeah, workers would transition to a 32-hour work week with absolutely no loss in pay. But I mean, economic perks like that sound amazing, but they are entirely meaningless if the technology itself spirals out of our control.
Yeah, that's the scary part.
The document pushes heavily to move from isolated pre-release testing to post-deployment reality.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the strategy looks a lot like how we manage aviation or medical safety. You don't just test a commercial airplane once and forget about it.
No, you mandate continuous monitoring.
Exactly. So OpenAI proposes an AI trust stack. This involves using verifiable digital signatures, essentially anonymized cryptographic watermarks, to trace an AI's actions and prove what digital content is real.
And they do this safely?
Yeah, employing zero-knowledge proof so your personal privacy isn't violated in the process.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The document details literal model containment playbooks.
Yeah, those are wild.
We are no longer treating rogue AI like a standard software bug. We're talking about treating it like a biological virus that requires a CDC-level containment protocol if it escapes.
Right, say it copies its own source code to decentralized servers before anyone can pull the plug on those servers. Containing a threat like that requires global coordination.
Which is incredibly hard to do.
Oh, absolutely. The authors argue that trusted public authorities need constant visibility into these systems. They want competitors to share information on near misses and evaluate frontier risks together.
Which means finding safe ways to bypass typical antitrust laws that usually prevent companies from colluding.
Right, exactly. It's a massive shift.
So what does this all mean? The urgency here is just palpable. This isn't science fiction for the year 2100. This transition to superintelligence is already underway.
Yeah, and the authors know the clock is ticking, which is why they are actively seeking public input right now. They're actually offering grants of up to $1 million in API credits.
Wow.
By giving away that massive compute power for free, they are ensuring that independent researchers and civil society can actually afford to test these frontier models and democratically shape the safety guardrails.
Which is huge.
It is. But ultimately, all of this preparation, the safety nets, the containment protocols, this raises an important question about what happens after the dust settles.
Yeah. Let's say society actually pulls this off, and we get the AI equivalent of the New Deal. If an AI public wealth fund dividend eventually covers your baseline bills, and a 32-hour workweek becomes the global standard because machines are handling the heavy lifting,
Right.
how will you define your personal purpose? When your identity is no longer tied to a traditional 9-to-5 job, what does it actually mean to be human in the intelligence age?